What's going on, everybody? Today is Tuesday, March 8th, 2022. My name is Jeremy. This is my first cup. This is day 4 without coffee. It's weird. I don't think it's the last time I went 4 days without coffee. I'm glad you like it. Dennis says this countdown rocks. Happy Tuesday, peeps. You know, I was looking for ways and if you look back, like if you've paid attention to the show for a while, you're like, oh, Jeremy's trying to find a way to start the show without starting the show, because people don't. Some of you sit at your computer and you're like, I'm ready, I'm ready, but not everyone does that. Some of you are like, oh yeah, and you get a notification and you click in and that takes a few seconds, and then one day I'm in StreamYard and it's like, there's a countdown video. I was like, let's try that. Is it cheesy? Yes. Should we make our own? Probably. Will we? I don't know. Maybe. So, hello to all of you, whether you're watching on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch. Thanks for being here. So, what are we doing today? We're talking about my yesterday and how my time at the range just so correlates with martial arts training. We're talking about the 4 interviews I have today. I'm not going to be able to name names. And see if you guys have any feedback on yesterday's episode that we released with Professor Bernadette Robinson. And of course, whatever else you've got coming up. It's good. It's tea. It's not coffee. It's not the same. I got a message. I want to confirm this. So I saw this as I was like falling asleep. That I think I got a message from, yeah. So Frank's not well. Frank's not feeling well. I got a message from him last night, just as I was about to go to bed, that said, I'm calling in sick. So, Frank, feel better. I don't know when you'll see this, but hope you recover soon, my friend. Good morning to Brian and Daniel and Dennis and Switch Gamer 4 and all the rest of you, whether you're watching live later, maybe listening. Thanks for coming by. Today's going to be a busy day. 5 meetings, 4 episode recordings. 9, 11, 1, and 3. Now, unfortunately, the one at 3 is, I don't know, one of the biggest names we've ever had. Now, I know I keep saying that, and that's because Andrew keeps crushing it. He keeps getting these yeses from people that have been on the dream list for a while. This is one. Now, you know that I don't drop names beforehand, right? Except in the Patreon group. I have not had a chance to plug that name in yet. I don't think I've shared that because there were rumors about it. Andrew and I were talking about it. It's like, it looks like this is going to happen, but it pretty much, it catalyzed pretty quickly. So I've not put out that post yet to say, oh, here's this name. But this is a name. Gosh, you've all got to know this name. It's not Chuck Norris, but you've got to know this name. I would be shocked if you don't know this name. This is a big name. And it's last. So I don't know how I'm going to handle this with the food thing. Lately, I've told you I've been recording in a fasted state because my mind is sharp. But am I going to make it through the entire day? I don't know. And I'll just play it by ear. This is why it's nice that I have a little bit of a break in between. I don't get much work done. I usually just kind of decompress, maybe send an email or two. But if I got to grab a snack, I'll grab a snack. Frank's asking for good vibes. Of course, my friend. Good vibes all around for you. I hope you feel better soon. So Daniel in his typical role. So Chuck this afternoon, right? No, I wish. So did you check out yesterday's episode? Professor Bernadette Robinson, great episode, great conversation. Lots of wonderful feedback on this one. The people who know her think incredibly highly of her. And we had more shares on that episode across social media than we typically do, which is a testament to how well people think of her. So that's great. Um, what else is going on? All in weekends, like 6 weeks away, which is kind of making me anxious. Not because we're not ready, but because we're not ready yet. Because there are things that still have to be planned, and we will be ready. I know we'll be ready. The nice thing about all in weekend is that if needed, I could plan that thing in half a day. It's not actually, and Andrew and I put together a ton of stuff already. It's just, I want to knock it out of the park for everybody. The whole chat's filled up with people giving Frank good vibes. So I love seeing that. Yesterday was a good day. It was my first day back from vacation, and it was a Monday. If you know me well, you know Mondays aren't always an easy day for me. And the added, let's call it load of transition from vacation to regular work, but I did okay. It could have been busier, so I'm thankful for that. You know, it wasn't completely full of meetings, but there were, where did I have 4 meetings, 5 meetings, and it went okay. Uh, I was done with work at 3:30, which felt awesome. Ran a couple packages out to the post office, mail out to people who ordered things while I was away, which was cool. And then I stopped by the shooting range and had my best day ever. I figured something else out in the way I was sighting in, and I was like, let me try this. This makes sense, right? Applying logic to the things you're doing. The same process that I use when I'm looking at technique, when I'm looking at sparring or forms, let's approach this from a logical perspective. Where are the biomechanics here? And I made some very slight revisions to my stance, and I made a small adjustment to how I was looking, and it made a huge difference, to the point where I pulled the target back and I went, huh, that's really good. And people were looking at it and they're going, huh, that's really good. So, yeah. Looking forward to continuing that. I had a conversation with somebody, the range officer came up to me and he's like, yeah, that's really good. Nice job. And we, and I mentioned, for me, there's a lot of similarity between shooting and martial arts, because the time I'm putting in is coming back out. Like, I'm seeing the results. It's me against me. There's very little in the way of predisposition, genetics, etc., that gets in the way of my progress. And I mentioned something like that. I was like, it's why I like. I'm gonna share. Daniel's asking. So is it a round table with Jackie Chan, Jet Li, and Donnie Yen? That would be amazing. First off, second, I cannot imagine coordinating schedules for those three. We would have time zones to deal with. I that would be amazing, but I think Andrew would lose his mind trying to schedule that. And Jenny says, "Good morning. The toddler distractions are strong today." Well, good luck with that. So I'm talking to the range officer. I mentioned, similarities with martial arts. He's like, "Oh, you do martial arts," and we ended up with a pretty long conversation while wearing ear protection, which was funny. And bottom line, he's like, "Let me know when you open your school. I'm in." Which is the reaction I've had from a number of people. They're like, "I'm in." So that's the goal this week, is to find the location. And once we've got the location, I don't think it'll take long before we get going. So that's cool. I'm excited about that. But that's not happening today because I got a lot going on today. 6 hours of recording, potentially. More tea. It gets darker as we go. Kind of looks like coffee. It's not coffee. Can you tell I miss coffee? I felt like I had something else I was going to say. I don't know. Oh, and then I went to the gym and I lifted a little bit, and it was crowded, and it was annoying because people were using all the equipment I wanted to use. And I forgot to practice do the kicking routine I've been doing. And so that annoyed me when I came home. Just all thrown out of sorts. This is what happens when you go on vacation. You break your routine, you come back, and you got to rebuild your routine. Could I have done my kicking on vacation? Yes. In hindsight, do I wish I had? Yes. Because it would have taken 5 minutes. But I didn't. And that's okay. Because it was vacation. Now, I think I saw something come through. One of you left a comment on the First Cut page on Facebook. So let me check that. We're getting close to the time. We are maybe 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off from me starting seeds. Can you believe that? It's almost time for me to start peppers. Peppers are 8 to 12 weeks. Yeah. They'll probably do really well in the greenhouse, so I might cut a week off of that. We'll find out. All right. All right, so we've got Ray has shared an article. What are they calling it? 20 Precepts of Shotokan Karate, and he's of course applying it to all martial arts. If you're unfamiliar with Funakoshi's work, it's a short book. I think it's up there somewhere. Great book. One of the things I find fascinating is that we keep reinventing the wheel when it comes to martial arts advice. And I'm just as guilty of this, right? Like we put out these quotes that I've made and the books I've written, all this stuff's out there. It's been around. I take a lot of pride in the fact that I arrived at some of the same conclusions that these our martial arts founding fathers did without having read some of their works. Read through or find a quote or what's like, oh, okay, so we're on the same page, right? Martial arts is just about fighting, and yet you go back 100 years and you've got writings from people who founded these styles, and they're like, oh, no, not really. It's about a lot more than that. So that's cool. Hello, what was our Bao family? That's a tough one to say. So Dennis says, milestone, if you started 12 months on day one, today you are on day 102. I would love to know, whether it's private or public, how you guys are doing with this, right? Like, I knew when we did this that some people would not be able to hang, right? That people would start and it's too subtle for some people. This is how change is created, but there's a group of people who struggle with this because it's doing the same thing over and over. But I'm curious, those of you who are in month 3 or 4, to wherever you are, like, I want to know how you're doing with this. Of course, we've got the Facebook group, 12 Months to Health, that Jenny runs. And she's even saying right now, please comment in the Facebook group to say what the journey is like. Facebook.com/12MTH. Because Jenny and I had a meeting yesterday, and we talked about applying this format to other things, right? 12 Months to Better Martial Arts, for example. Should I even make that book? Are people going to buy that book? If I can't get people to follow through on this book, they're probably not going to buy that book. There is a contingent of folks who buy books and put them on the shelf and say, I'll read that someday. I don't want to make books like that. That's not the goal. We don't make enough money on books for that to be the goal, right? The goal is making an impact. Everything we do, the goal is making an impact. If we make a strong enough impact, other things happen. So Daniel's being honest here. He says, I've struggled with fat to start the day in month 2, and I've slacked starting month 3 as COVID kicked my arse. About a tablespoon of cream in my tea. It doesn't have to be much. But he's still drinking his water, not missed a day. That's good. Dennis says, I haven't forgotten about 12 months to bug eating. I have a long memory, peeps. Wow, apparently. It's habits matter. Creation of habits is difficult. It's where the magic comes from. It's when things become unconscious. Because conscious effort is exhausting. When you've got to do these things, and you're like, I have to write these emails, I have to do this. But do you notice any kind of an emotional load in brushing your teeth? Probably not, because you brush your teeth on whatever frequency you brush your teeth. It's something you've done for a very long time. You don't have to think about it, it's automatic. The more we can incorporate those automatic things, the better. And the more we can build automatic habits in martial arts training, the better. It's the whole concept behind repeating techniques and sets of techniques many times, so that when it comes time to use them, it requires less energy because you're probably stressed out, your adrenaline's probably up, and you probably don't have much energy available. So it just happens. That's a good thing. All right. So did we get this art? Let me fire up this article. This article comes from Black Belt Magazine. I have a meeting with Justin. Speaking of magazines, I have a meeting with Justin this morning because it's Tuesday to talk about Martial Journal. Just a reminder, if any of you ever want to write for Martial Journal, we can make that happen. You just have to write. We'll get you onboarded. It costs you nothing. It costs us nothing, as in we don't pay you. But it's the consistent writers that get the first offers of paid gigs in the print magazine. So there is some incentive there, as well as you can promote yourself and what you're doing. All right, 20 precepts of Shotokan Karate. Wisdom of Gishin Fudokoshi helps all martial artists. All right, give me some of the, okay. Karate begins and ends with courtesy. And of course, that's discussed from the perspective of bowing. I'll share the screen on this. There's no reason I can't. Share. That button, this button. And then we go back over here and make sure my face is in the corner. There we go. Put my face right there. Yeah. Okay. We talk about it in terms of bowing, right? I'm sure it even says, no, it doesn't say anything about bowing, but it all stems from respect. How much can you progress with a training partner that you don't respect? If you don't respect them, you probably don't respect them because you don't trust them, because you're fearful that they're going to hurt you. That's not a good way to train, right? You're not going to progress there. Number two, in karate, there's no first attack. This gets beaten on frequently. An attack does not have to be physical. An attack is an assurance that an intent to create bodily harm is being thrown your way. If someone, so I play out these scenarios sometimes. I'm guessing you do too, right? If you've been training a while, you probably look at certain scenarios. Now, I mentioned a few weeks ago, there was a guy at Panera, of all places, who was like up in my face. He was like right here while I'm trying to order my bagel. It was on bagel day. And he was like, it's also pizza day. And I'm like, can you take a step back? And he did. If he had remained there in that circumstance, it would have been a threatening gesture, right? Like to invade someone's space, to have them ask you kindly to step back and to remain is threatening. Okay. That's kind of a first strike in my mind. Does it mean I would have hauled off and broken his face? No. But it means that I would have shifted from ordering bagel mode to defensive mode. thing's running like death this morning. Karate is innate to justice. Control yourself before you attempt to control others. Spirit first, technique second. I'm looking for something that jumps out that I want to talk about. Always be ready to release your mind. Very large picture of Funakoshi. Accidents arise from negligence. Yeah. And from pushing boundaries beyond where they should be. This is why I love, if any of you who have been in a session where I've taught and we're working things really slowly, that's one of my favorite elements of that style of training, is that nobody's afraid, because nobody's going to make a mistake that hurts someone. If you mess up, the consequences are almost zero. And that's a really exciting way to train. So it's like, I can try this, and I can try this, and I can do this. And nobody gets hurt, and nobody gets judged. Do not think that karate training occurs only in the dojo. Yeah. I've talked about this for a long time. Train with and without shoes, train in and out of street clothes, train on uneven pavement. We did early episodes about training outside and all these ways that you can take your training. This is a great example of where forms training comes in really well. We'll use the karate term, kata. Uneven ground, barefoot outside, gravel, ice, right? Like, these things are really, really valuable. If you're not willing to go train your forms on an icy driveway, for example, how do you expect to defend yourself if someone accosts you on an icy sidewalk? There's a lot of value in mixing that up. Good, Daniel. I approve. Number 9, it takes an entire lifetime to learn karate. That suggests that there's a finality. The only finality is dying. There's always more to learn, and I think that's the best part. Last night this gentleman was asking me, "What are you going to teach?" And I was like, "Well, we can call it karate." And he kind of looked confused, and we kept talking, and he was asking, he's like, "Do you know anything about knives and working with knives?" And I was like, "I know a little, because I've done some training in Filipino martial arts." And he's like, "Oh, cool." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a good example of why it's hard for me to answer what I'm going to teach stylistically, because I'm going to bring some of that in, because why not? I'm going to teach martial arts. People want to give it a name. I'll call it karate. It's a hybrid." Hear people kick around the term of blended style. That works. Put your everyday living into karate. You will find the secrets. This is a good one. Karate is like boiling water. If you do not heat it constantly, it will cool. We've talked about this a bunch. The idea that, yeah, you can continue to be a martial artist if you slow down or even stop training, assuming, in my mind, that you have an intention to train again in the future. You remain a martial artist. But your skills, your passion, etc., fade if you're not working it. And that's true of everything. If you have any kind of pursuit that requires passion and you stop applying passion, it's not the same thing. Imagine a painter going through the motions. How good is their painting going to be? Imagine a chef who just kind of shows up and they're like, whatever, food. It's not going to taste as good. Same thing can be said of your training. So Daniel's asking Jenny for a reminder. If you can just message me at 6 a.m. my time every day reminding me that I need to have some fat, that'd be awesome. How about taping a note to your mug, because I'm assuming you have coffee or something in the morning. Your coffee mug, your tea mug, whatever it is. Tape a note to it. Add fat. Done. It's almost time. Let's see. Don't think about winning. Think about not losing, because there's a big difference. Victory depends on your ability to distinguish vulnerable points from invulnerable points. Here's a good one that blows people's minds. Don't punch people in the skull. It's not usually a good idea. The skull's really hard. Your hand is less so. Keep that in mind. The battle unfolds according to how you move guarded and unguarded. Think of your hands and feet as swords. Whenever you leave home, envision numerous opponents waiting for you. I get permission to do that? I thought I was doing that anyway. Constantly assessing for threats. It was something I did a lot on vacation. Is that person just a drunk, a weirdo, a drunk weirdo, a potential escalation? There was only one. There was only one that I thought could have gone sideways. And the people, I think I shared this, but I'll share it again. The people I was with having dinner observed this person who was begging, who I'd already pushed off twice. Was a group of women, 3-4 women walked by, and he singled one of them out and was talking to her, and the other 3 walked a few more steps and then kind of stood and waited. Nobody went back to help her. And so one of the people I was eating with said, should we go help her? I was like, no, because right now that would escalate the situation. Right now it's just conversation. He's not making any threatening gestures. Right? Like, you got to watch for this stuff. Beginners must master low stance and posture. Natural body positions are for the advanced. If you can move out of a low, strong stance, you can move out of anything. Understanding your body's relationship to the ground is critical for all the things that we do. Practicing kata is one thing, engaging in a real fight is another. Absolutely. But the gap between the two is closer than people realize, if you're practicing your forms well. Do not forget to correctly learn the strengths and weaknesses of power, the stretching and contraction of the body, and the slowness and speed of techniques. I don't need anything to that. And then the last one, devise ways to live the precepts every day. There you go. Thanks for sharing that. That was Ray. Thanks for sharing that, Ray. Greatly appreciated. Normally, I'm not going to go through a whole article like that, but we had time today. You guys are not super talkative. That's okay. Can't all be talkative every day. I'm not going to show up and give my best show every day. It's not possible. Some will be better than others. 4 interviews. It's a lot. It's a lot to do. We've got it. We've got this though. Gonna be fine. And Daniel says, that's not a bad plan. See, sometimes the best solutions are the simplest. I leave myself notes. I have lists. Here's a big one. If I need to remember to bring something when I leave the house, I put it in front of the door, the exterior door. Oh, I have to put this in the car. Done. If it's something that I need to remember, I don't know. I do that kind of thing. I'm a pile person. There are piles everywhere. It's all stuff that I've got to remember to deal with. It's like, oh, that thing's over there because I've got to install that, and I've got to scan those photos. It's just how I do it. Lots of notes. All right. I hope you have a good day. Go forth and do good things and drink good beverages and be productive and train and all that good stuff. And hiccup. That was not pleasant. Remember, we do the show every weekday, 6:30 U.S. Eastern Time on Facebook, on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, all over the place. If you have questions or comments or feedback or anything like that you want to leave publicly, Facebook group's the best place. Facebook.com/firstcupwithjeremy. If you don't do Facebook or want to share things privately, jeremy@whistlekick.com is my email address. And if you want to support us with things that we do mean something to you, you can pick something up. These mugs came down yesterday. If you didn't grab one of the limited edition mugs, you missed it. But there are plenty of other things up there for you at whistlekick.com, and you can use the code FIRSTCUP15 to save 15%. You can also join the Patreon, patreon.com/whistlekick. And if you want the full list, it's whistlekick.com/family. We update that page on a weekly basis. Okay. I hope you do. I already said that stuff. But yeah, have a good day. Be well. I'm going to go crush some interviews. And I'll see you back here tomorrow. Take care, everybody. Peace. Thanks for joining.